Hi everyone, my name is Nathan. I'm a PhD student in the computer science department, and today I'd like to tell you about my research into privacy controls for always listening devices. Let me start by defining what I mean by those terms. When I say always listening devices, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it a smart switch that you can control with your voice? Maybe it's a smart fridge that talks to you. But probably you're thinking about smart speakers. And that's because, at least if you live in the United States, statistically, there's almost a 50% chance that you're one of the hundreds of millions of people who has one of them. Even if you don't, you're probably pretty familiar with people going, "Hey Alexa," or "OK Google." True to the name of the Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity, we wanted to think about the future of these devices. What are they going to look like? We decided that they might not necessarily look that different, but that they will sound different. We think that in the future we'll be saying "Hey Alexa" a lot less, but the devices will be doing a lot more listening. Namely, they'll be listening to our everyday conversations. It'll start, in fact it has already started, with listening for various sounds, noises that indicate something's wrong and you should be alerted. It will progress to listening to what we say before we even utter the device's wake word. And hey, maybe we don't need the wake word at all. We can just say our commands, and the device will hear them and act on them. The natural progression is for the devices to start listening all the time. Everything you say will be analyzed in some way. We think that eventually devices will start acting on ambient conversations. The system will listen to everything we say, pick out the bits that it can help with, even if we're not talking to it, and then act on that information. We call this behavior passive listening, and we want to design privacy controls that can address this scenario in addition to the more familiar ones. So what are the privacy controls? Well, a mute button is one type of control, which we found in our research isn't used very much, but we're interested in something a bit more granular, a permission system that would let us be more specific about what these assistants should or shouldn't hear. One example of a permission system that we're all pretty familiar with runs on our smartphones. That's what asks you when an app wants to access your location, or camera, or another resource. But this doesn't transfer really well to an always listening device. We need something different. So how do we design a completely new permission system? Well, that's what our project has been all about. And actually, existing permission systems can help us understand the questions we need to answer to get there. The first big question we need to address is, what exactly is the information that needs to be protected? To answer this, we conducted surveys to understand how existing device owners felt about their data. How should it be stored? How should it be used? What are people most protective of? We also investigated expectations for the still hypothetical assistants. We found that many people have privacy concerns, but plenty could see themselves using these devices. That's dependent, though, on how useful the assistant would be, and our participants help us brainstorm ideas for useful services. Step 2 in designing our permission system is developing ways to enforce the permissions on the device. How do we make sure certain things are heard, but others are not? To do this, we considered a number of different approaches, and compared them by evaluating their strengths and weaknesses, the levels of protection they might offer, and the usability challenges that might accompany them. Afterwards, we studied one approach in depth. We created a new transparency mechanism, a way for users to understand what an always listening device would hear in various circumstances. Then, we tested whether regular people could use this tool to detect if a malicious service was spying on them. The final step is to develop the user experience. What are the privacy choices consumers will need to make when they're interacting with these new devices? How would they configure the permission system? That's the part we're working on right now. We're again focusing on a specific architecture, in this case devices that would run mostly offline, and we're running studies to investigate the setup experience, as well as trying to design prototypes that we can then give to people in order to better understand what it's like to be living with one of these devices. We're really excited about this work and are looking forward to sharing more when we have results. So what you just heard was a very short summary of our work. There are results and even whole projects I didn't get a chance to tell you about. If you want to learn about them or hear about cool stuff others in our group are doing, check out our website. It's blues.cs.berkeley.edu. Also, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to field questions, ideas, and feedback. My email's on the screen, and I'm always listening. Thank you.